Dear learners, welcome to this first unit, first module of Research Methodology for Tourism and Hospitality Management. In this module, we will be going through a quick review of the researches happening in tourism and hospitality management discipline, especially in India, and a general outlook on world. And in the second part, we will be discussing upon the research process. You all might be studying different areas during your undergraduation or post-graduation about tourism, hospitality, events or sports according to the course curriculum designed to you. Tourism in fact is a multidisciplinary subject. It includes areas like leisure, recreation, sports, events, marketing, hospitality, transport, logistics, etc. When we look the other side, different universities offer tourism management or hospitality management courses through the departments which establish these courses. For example, in several universities in India, tourism management is an independent course, and in some universities it is offered through management studies, or in some universities it is offered through commerce, geography or history. So the focus of this course depends upon the parent department which is offering this program. And when we take up research areas, students prefer business areas as one of the allied discipline connecting with the tourism or hospitality, and other areas are like managerial aspects, then commerce. If you look into the spatial aspects, geography is one of the main subject, or environmental studies. When we study tourism impacts, environment is one of the most discussed topic in that. And there are cultural heritage preservation, etc. So there are some universities offer cultural studies. Religious studies is one of the very prominent area in tourism research. So there are different religions in different countries. Religious tourists or pilgrims, their behavior or their activities at the destination is generally we can pursue through religious studies. So in a nutshell, we can say that tourism is highly interdisciplinary. Several allied subjects relate tourism and hospitality, and there are a lot of researches happening across the world or even in different organizations. It is not only in academic institutions, also in different organizations. They use the findings of such research for product development or adopting appropriate strategies for business development, and even policymakers use the outcome of such researches for designing policies and programs for the welfare of the nations. So let me just give you the outline of featured areas in tourism and hospitality management. When we look the tourism research, one area which we figure out is destination image, tourist satisfaction, destination loyalty of tourists, and their revisit intention. Now look at the interesting area in this particular subject. It is highly aligned with psychology. And do you know that TPB, theory of planned behavior or theory of recent action, these two theories were used by several researchers to study about tourist behavior. So, at one point of time, even now, tourist behavior is examined through the lens of theory of planned behavior or theory of recent action. And the second area is understanding the stakeholders' behavior and learning about the stakeholders' role, stakeholder engagement, and their relationship with the intermediaries. Now, one interesting aspect here is we are studying the supply chain management in tourism when we connect it with the stakeholders. You all must be knowing tourism distribution system is linked by the tourism service providers, wholesalers, retailers till the end customers. So, learning about the role of stakeholders is taken up by different institutions and different universities conduct research on this area. Now, moving towards services management. Tourism and hospitality subject falls under services management area in broad. So, the role of service providers, how services are designed, delivered, and understanding the failure or success of delivering the service. Thereby, an organization is winning over customers, or at times it also can cause failures. So, learning about service management is one of the interesting areas in tourism and hospitality research. Then learning about the community and tourist behavior. So, we hear about tourists are not welcomed in many countries. Because of over tourism, the residents, there are several protests happening in different countries against tourism development. Why this is happening? An inquiry into guest-host relationship is an interesting theme to research on, and there are researches happening in this area too. Then tourism trends, the product design innovation, changing the dynamics of tourism. The interesting part, tourism trends is another area of interest among researchers. The way tourism is developed or the way tourist behavior is influencing the market, and the countries which are benefited from tourism or the countries which are also having the highest tourist footfall, the way tourism industry is prepared for the high number of tourist visit, this all matters in this particular area. I wish to give you one example here. Remember Maldives. When there was a political misunderstanding from the Maldivian government, you have seen that tourist footfall from India has drastically reduced, and Maldives' main revenue source is tourism. So, there are several aspects which decide tourism trends. When we look into the next area, that is related to employee, especially coming under human resource management. How the managers treat their employees, how employees are satisfied or how they deliver their services in tourism and hospitality industry. So, when we look into tourism business, this business is functioning 24/7 basis, and especially hospitality or events, there is a huge work pressure. So, the students who complete tourism management or hospitality management programs, they enter into the industry, they undergo lot of stress in the early part of their career. Examining how the new incumbent, they manage the stress how they progress in their career, and how they adapt to the situations. This is an interesting area, and again let me tell you, there are several institutions offer programs in research focusing upon the human resource management part of tourism. While continuing with the area of interest for tourism researchers, history, heritage, culture, these are very important part for any nation, and especially India is concerned. India is a country with rich cultural heritage. We have thousands of years of legacy starting from Indus Valley civilization, and different dynasties contributed in different ways for the development of our nation, and we have also undergone colonial rule. So, all these periods contributed differently, and our cultural heritage include tangible structures such as monuments, forts, palaces, or buildings associated with important personalities. The intangible heritage of India consists of language systems, traditions, folklore, folk stories, and rituals. So, detailed study of cultural heritage of India or different communities, how they observe different traditions, how they observe different festivals. This all falls under the category of heritage history research. When we look into tourism and conservation, let me tell you about environment is one of the most vulnerable aspect of tourism industry. Tourism and hospitality service providers, they depend upon the natural environment a lot, and high tourist footfall that also cause damage to eco-fragile areas. We have mountain regions, rivers, valleys, coastal regions, plains and plateaus. All diverse geographical forms are available in India. So, there are also highly eco-fragile areas. So, constructions of any kind, or especially such areas known for biological hotspots or biodiversity, where large number of tourist movement happens to degrade the environment. So, this is also an interesting area which researchers take up. Tourism and sustainable development goals is one of the most discussed topics these days. United Nations introduced the concept of sustainable development in the late 1980s, and there were several discussions starting from local agenda 21, then comes millennium development goals, and then sustainable development goals. So, we have 17 UN sustainable development goals aim to contribute to the balance of the planet or balance the development of our systems, and the role of tourism and hospitality industry is very important in achieving SDGs. So, island nations or nations which are surrounded by marine resources, or those countries which are landlocked, or those countries where the natural resources are very less, different way they can contribute to the achievement of sustainable development goals. And when we look at IT and tourism, the discussion of these days are smart tourism destinations. So, ICT and its role in making tourism smart, and all of you are aware that different mobile applications that we use, these are helping tourists a lot at destinations. Think of booking a cab, booking a hotel room, or finding the distance from one place to another place, creating a tourist itinerary. You might be using these applications in everyday life. The AI tools, especially ChatGPT or Gemini, this help us a lot in crafting customized tour packages. So students who pursue engineering subjects, they also have interest in tourism and hospitality segment, and most of the applications designed for tourism are coming out from IITs or students qualify such courses. So the next component is tourism and hospitality education. So you might be aware that thousands of students qualify tourism and hospitality management programs every year. The content of tourism courses or the delivery of these courses and the future of tourism and hospitality students, the career progress at different stages, all need to be examined carefully. So researchers specializing tourism and hospitality education, they work on all these areas, and you are aware that our curriculum upgradation happens time to time, and the finding of these researchers are highly helpful in designing the curriculum for tourism education. So now let us enter into the research part. What is research? Research is enquiry, satisfying the problems which happens in our everyday life or we find at different levels. Every level, every field, in every field there is a need of research. When we have unanswered problems, it develops curiosity, and in search of answers, we consciously or unconsciously undergo several processes. And when it is doing systematically, that means identifying the research problem and finding the way how to identify answers, undergoing the process of investigation, collecting the data, analyzing it systematically. So all this really come under the research process. So it harnesses curiosity because the research findings are highly valuable for our society. You might be remembering during the COVID-19 pandemic, every laboratories tried to develop vaccines. So if these vaccines were not developed, remember, so many people would have lost their precious lives. So there is a problem, and we can answer these problems if we do systematically plan the work, plan our research, and adopt appropriate mechanism to come to the result. And when the result become generalizable, when we can generalize the research finding, it would be highly valuable for people of different areas, communities as well as the government. So it is a scientific process. And for organizations, destination management organizations or government, the outcome of these researches are very, very important. Adopting suitable strategies or changing the policy directions, the outcomes of research is highly used. So when we classify research, in broad, we can divide it into three. Academic research is number one in that. Every student pursuing research might be knowing the process of registering PhD in a university or an institution. You know the basic requirement. UGC or higher education institutions, they design the process of selecting the candidates to PhD programs. But let me again brief you that you should possess the minimum eligibility requirements, and once you enroll for PhD, then you have to submit a research proposal, and then you have to complete a pre-PhD course. While undergoing this course, you also learn the use of tools, several softwares, and when you start data collection, you realize the real problems that you face, and at the end, the results, when you analyze the results, you get the findings, and once the thesis is submitted, it goes for evaluation, and once the viva is done, that individual is awarded with a PhD degree. So the dream of every researcher in any part of this world is to have a good thesis and also have recognition from the society that I did a good research. And the outcome of such researches build the body of knowledge for coming generations. And when we enter into marketing research, this is the second area I wish to describe you. Marketing research is highly useful in business organizations, especially tourism and hospitality management area. So here again, the industry, they identify such problems, and these problems are investigated through proper mechanism, and the results are discussed at the top management level and adopt appropriate strategies for changing the decisions at a different operational or managerial level, so that the organization can sustain their business, retain their customers, or make profit in the long run. So marketing research is one of the highly useful area in tourism and hospitality management. Let me share you with an example. Hotels. You are aware that hotels use booking platforms. And do you know, when we book a room through bookings.com, we find out a list of hotels offering services. But what drives a customer to choose a particular hotel? And why that customer is not using the hotel's online portal? Now figure out the way the customer decides. When a customer uses the portal of the hotel, the income directly goes to that hotel. But when the customer is using a booking portal like bookings.com, a proportion of the revenue has to be shared with this portal. So there is a gap which we can identify. So it is not only in hospitality, in every area of tourism and hospitality research this is applicable. The last part is action research. Action research deals with the community engagement and the real life problems the people have in their life. So this also includes the similar process: data collection, analysis, discussion, synthesis of the findings, and the submission of results. So action research help to address the real life problems the society is having. NGOs or organizations, different organizations, they work forward to come out with the solutions. Now we are entering into the conclusion of this module. I hope you got an overall view of tourism and hospitality management research. It is just the beginning of this course. So when we go into the details, we will have more understanding about tourism and hospitality management research areas. So to recap, we studied that this research is highly interdisciplinary. Research is all about solving unanswered problems, and for organizations and governments, research outcomes are very important. Then we can divide research into three categories. One is academic research, or second is marketing research, third is action research, depending upon the purpose and individual is taking up this research. So if you have any doubts, you are welcome to come back to me. I hope you had a good learning session. I thank all of you for listening this session carefully.